life experiences are about where we've been and also where we are now and all the stuff that God's done to get us from where we were to where we are. But along the way, God also allows us to make choices. In fact, choices are part of everyday life for all of us. Some choices are really simple, like what do you like with your hamburger? You want tater tots or French fries or onion rings? What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Or, what kind of dressing do you want in your salad? Those are choices we have to make, and there are a lot of them. The older we get, those choices become more and more important. Choices like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Who are you going to marry? Where are you going to go to school? What's going to be your career? What city you want to live in? You want to buy a house or rent a house? And those choices can be really, really heavy choices. But there's a choice today that we're going to look at with Joshua 24 that he says that we all have to make. Who are you going to follow? That's a very important life choice, and you have to choose. Sometimes life forces you into a choice, like when you come to a place on the road where there's a fork and you can go left or you go right. You can't keep going straight, you got to choose. I'm reminded of a poem from when I was growing up in high school or grade school. Maybe you students or you kids will remember this. It's very famous. It's Robert Frost is the poet, and it's called The Road Not Taken. And the beginning of the poem just simply says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And he's talking about this walking through the woods, and he comes to a place where he has to choose to go right or to go left. And the whole poem is about this dilemma of which way to go. In a strange way, in Joshua 24, this very famous verse, it's one of the most famous verses in the Bible, Joshua is saying to the children of Israel, you've got to choose. You've got to make a choice. You've got to choose to follow God, or you got to choose to follow someone else. Joshua 24, that passage we were talking about, verse 14, Joshua says, now therefore fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and faithfulness. Put away the gods your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if it's evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your fathers served in the region beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I think Joshua is laying out two distinct paths for the children of Israel in this day. He's saying you guys can go down this one path. A lot of people go down it. It's the gods all around you, the land that you live in. We don't know exactly what gods he was talking about on that day, but we can name 4 or 5 of them. Could have been talking about Baal or Ashtaroth or Chemosh or any of the other gods of the Canaanites. Maybe the god of the Philistines, Dagon. He could have even been referencing the golden calf that they themselves had made in the wilderness. Whatever it was, he was saying, you guys have a choice to make. Which path are you going to take? What God are you going to serve? And it occurs to me that in our experience, it's the same thing. We're surrounded with a variety of choices in gods. Maybe even some of us have friends at school or our neighborhood that have followed the God of, Muhammad. He's the prophet, and they're following that way. Maybe it's Buddhism. Maybe we have some friends who are Hindu. And of course, these are all choices. You get to choose the gods that you're going to follow. Some people still don't even choose the gods that are regular religions. They choose the gods of themselves, and they choose their own way. And that's a path you can take. You can just follow yourself, do what feels good, and make your decisions that way. The bottom line is, though, Joshua says, you can choose the gods of this world. So Joshua is saying to the people of Israel, you have a choice. You can choose this path of the other gods around you, or you can choose the path towards God, and that's the path that I'm choosing to take. As for me and my house, will serve the Lord. There's 2 parts of this challenge of choices that we have to make. One is it has to be a daily choice. He says, choose you this day whom you will serve. It's good to remember and to reflect where we've been, but you can't make a choice for God yesterday. You got to make a choice for him today. You can't make a choice for God tomorrow because we don't know if tomorrow's coming. Today, you have to choose. And so, literally, if you're a young kid watching this, every day you got to choose Jesus. And if you're an old kid watching this, today is the day you choose Jesus Christ. And there's another part of this teaching that I really like, though. It's a personal decision. Nobody else can make you go down the path. We're experiencing this together in tents of family and students and various tents, but you have to make this choice that you're going to go down the path that follows God. That's what Peter did really in Matthew 16:16, where Jesus said to his apostles, "Who do people say that I am?" And ultimately, Peter said, "It doesn't matter who people say that you are. Here's what I think. I think that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And that's called the Good Confession, and that's the ultimate statement about, I'm going to follow you, Jesus, because your path is best. You know, all this talk about paths and roads and Joshua giving us a challenge to choose which path we're going to take reminds me of somebody else. 1,500 years after Yeshua, Joshua in the Old Testament, another Yeshua, Jesus, came along, and he talked about the same thing. And basically he said there's these different paths you can choose. In his famous Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 7, he says there's a broad way, it's a wide road that leads to destruction, and a lot of people find it. On the other hand, he said there's a narrow way that leads to life, and only a few get on that path. I believe that he was talking about himself as that narrow way that leads to God, because in John 14, when he was hanging out with his disciples and they were asking him, how do we get to the Father? He said these words in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That word way literally is road or path. He's saying if you want to get to God and you want your life to make sense and you want to have a life that matters, then get on the path that leads to me. And that's what we're praying for, and we're encouraging you to choose today. Perhaps somebody in your tent, maybe you yourself, have never taken that step of saying, I choose Jesus Christ. I confess Him as my Lord and Savior. I want to follow Him the rest of my life. I hope that you'll do that today, and if not, that you'll at least talk to somebody in your tent about that, and you'll make a decision I know you won't regret. Choose Jesus and follow Him the rest of your life. You know, Robert Frost ends that poem by repeating the first line, 2 roads diverged in the yellow wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. My testimony and my prayer for you is that you'll choose the road called Jesus Christ. I know for me that's made all the difference.